we reach the halfway point of the 2019 season, it's time for the prime contenders to separate themselves from the field. We've seen pandemonium in the polls on a weekly basis, but the best teams in Texas are starting to show why they belong at the top. And the best players in the state have been remarkably consistent. In fact, we spotlight several of them right here on the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week show. Aaron Hardigan and Greg Tepper welcoming you into the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week show, where, listen, I don't know if we're getting older or we're just having too much fun, but it is hard to believe we are indeed at the midway point this season.
It's both. But yeah, we are at the midway point of the season. Week 6 is the biggest bye week of the year. And so we're starting to, it's a nice time to take a step back and look at what the landscape. And I think throughout the course of the season, we've seen some big surprises. But more importantly, Aaron, I think we've seen some teams that have stepped up to the plate, that have established themselves as perennial powers, teams that are going to be there playing deep into December. I'm excited to see the rest of this final stretch of the regular season play out.
I might have a power for you on this sheet. So it was last week we sat here and raved of Rockwall's win over then unbeaten Arlington Martin. You wondered how the Yellow Jackets would fare buzzing into Lobo Stadium in Longview, home of the reigning 6A D2 state champs, and that guy, Haynes King, who reminds you he can do it with both the arm and the legs. He took off for that 30-yarder to start the scoring, and Longview really wouldn't look back. Tep King responsible for 6 touchdowns in this game, 5 of them rushing, as the Lobos remain unblemished after taking down Rockwall. 49-3 was the final there. So Longview sitting at 4.
Yeah.
What do you make?
And the top team, by the way, that is projected to go to the Division II bracket. Westlake would be the second one there. But you look at there, it's a lot of the usual suspects, right? Teams that have stuck in the top 10. The big game this week was Denton Guyer taking on Southlake Carroll. But, you know, for Longview, we've talked a lot about Haynes King, and I think they're understandably so. He's a blue chip quarterback. He's the coach's kid. He's going to Texas A&M. He is a star. But I think the real star of this Longview show right now is the defense. The way that this defense is playing, that is one of the most impressive performances we have seen at any level to shut out Rockwall. Rockwall, hold them out of the end zone. Rockwall is a team that was 4th in 6A in scoring, and they held them out of the end zone. That is impressive to shut down that Yellow Jackets attack. There's a lot of reasons why Longview is going to be a contender this year. Haynes King is a big reason. That defense may be an even bigger reason.
One of the few reigning champs still standing unbeaten as we now unveil our Class 6A Built Ford Tough Player of the Week. Also a senior quarterback, but he's out of Conroe. Christian Pack totaled 572 yards last week in a scratched-out win over Klein Cain. He carried 25 times for 201 and a score, and only had 2 interceptions through the air, but I feel like the 4 touchdowns made up for it.
Well, and by the way, they needed every single bit of that for the Tigers to take down a very game Klein Cain squad in a big district showdown. And look, anytime you go for 300 yards passing and 200 yards rushing, you're doing something well. And look, there are going to be those games that maybe the defense just doesn't have it. And it looks like in that game against Klein Cain, obviously the Hurricanes probably came in with a really good game plan themselves. But there are times where the quarterback and the offense just have to step up. And I think Christian Pack probably went to them, his boys, and said, guys, we're going to have to go out there and win this game or else we're going to drop a key district game. But the Tigers came up big. Christian Pack came up big. And that's why he's our Built Ford Tough Player of the Week.
Well, and we have a slate of offensive stars this week on the show, but we are about to honor our lone defensive man of the week in Class 5A. He's Brandon Adame, the junior linebacker of Mercedes, and he put on a tackling clinic. 21 total, 5 for loss, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery, helping the Tigers in a much-needed win.
Yeah, and by the way, that's a big win over Ed Couch-Elsa, and he was all over the field. A guy who's been on our radar ever since last year, a sensational sophomore season where he was the district defensive newcomer of the year. And you look at the numbers, and the numbers are mind-blowing. 21 tackles for any single player is awful impressive. But the thing that stands out to me, and you know, we talk so much about being a star on the field on this show, but he's a star off the field as well. When you talk about a member of the student council, he's in the National Honor Society, he plays baseball, he runs track, he's powerlifting, he is involved in the Boys and Girls Club. You know, it's easy to look at stat lines, right, and to look at these guys and say, man, he put up crazy numbers in this game. But the most important thing that he's doing is taking care of his business off the field, because, he's obviously a star on the field, but off the field, he's doing the work as well. That's a big reason why he's our Built for Tough Player of the Week. And I would say that's a common theme throughout all the guys we're going to honor through the course of this program.
Absolutely. In fact, as we're just getting started here on the Built for Tough Player of the Week show, when we return, we welcome to the show a young man and a community that are the definition of Ford Tough. They're with us when we return. The Built for Tough Player of the Week show is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. It was last month that Tropical Storm Imelda hit southeast Texas, pouring over 40 inches of rain in certain areas, causing devastating and record-breaking floods that several communities are still recovering from, including the town of Hampshire in Jefferson County. A number of homes flooded, including the home of our 4A Player of the Week. And boy, is he the definition of Built Ford Tough, as he and the Longhorns of Hampshire Fannett have been undaunted by the obstacles placed in their way by Imelda. In fact, they have rallied around each other in the game of football, now riding back-to-back-to-back wins after last week's meeting with Tarkington in the Battle of the Longhorns, where our Class 4A Built for Tough Player of the Week led the charge. The school stadium lined with debris from the storm. It was senior quarterback Marcus Morris, who was the fearless field general that the team and the community looked to as he led the calm, the confidence, and ran for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Horns' 34-21 victory. What a game that was, and what a privilege it is for me now to welcome Mr. Morris to the show, along Hampshire Fannett head coach Mark Wagner. Guys, first and foremost, thank you so much for making time to be with us today. Marcus, a huge congrats to you, my friend, a well-deserved honor. I'm always curious to know how you learned you were the Player of the Week and what it means to you to be named the best player in the state in your class for last week.
Well, thank you, and it really means a lot. I know it means a lot to the community and to everyone else around in the 409. And I'm just grateful and thankful for it.
Well, over 300 yards will certainly earn you an honor like this. Did you know going into the game against Tarkington, again, a big rival battle of the Longhorns it was, did you know that you were going to be running it as much as you did? And how were you so successful on the ground last week?
Honestly, I didn't know I was going to be running the ball that much, but I mean, they couldn't stop it, so I was okay with it and perfectly fine with running it.
All right, Coach. Marcus is playing the modest card over here. I'm going to let you tell us why he deserved this honor this week.
Well, he's a tremendous football player. He can play any position. If we put him at nose guard, he would excel at nose guard. But right now he plays quarterback for us, and we feel like we have the best quarterback in the state of Texas. We really do. He's a pleasure to coach. And the other night, if you really look at it, he really didn't run the ball that many times. It was actually 13 carries. I think one of them was scrambled, but they were not design runs all the time. So really, we don't ever go into a game thinking we're just going to run Marcus, because he can throw just as well as he can run. But they were giving us the run, and you got to pick your poison with Marcus. He's tremendous. He's one of the best, easiest players to coach I've ever had. It's always yes sir, no sir. He always does exactly what you ask him to do. He can correct with just a verbal coaching. He doesn't have to see it, and he's really easy. He's fun to be around. I know the kids just know that when the ball is in his hands, good things are usually going to happen to us.
Well, listen, and over the last few weeks for you guys, I know he's kind of been the leader that really the whole community has looked to. How has football coach been kind of that respite for you guys over the last few weeks?
It's been, you have to understand, this community just 2 years ago went through Harvey, and this was worse this time. Some people think, well, it was a hurricane last time, a tropical depression this time. We actually received more water in places that we didn't last time. So it's been devastating when you get up and then you get knocked down again. But these guys keep coming back.
Marcus, personally, how are you and your family impacted by this?
We were devastated at first, but I mean, we just we're used to challenges and used to fighting through, but it didn't really affect us that bad. So I'm grateful for that.
One of the first things we did is when we could get out, a lot of us were pinned in where you couldn't get out for a while, except by boat. And then so once we were able to get out and we got together and we started taking, we got the buses. We had the buses that were dry, and we were able to load up the guys that didn't have any flooding. And even the ones that did had already ripped out their drywall and all that. And we were able to go around and help several families and do it as a team. And I think it was important to see that other people were going through the same thing you are. And some of them have a lot rougher than you have it. And I think that helped with rallying everybody. It was a great team effort, a great community effort, and that's the kind of community we had. And so we look forward to getting back to normalcy. We haven't had school yet. School's going to kick back on Monday. But we thought if we could get the kids up here, and we started practicing, and we actually, Friday night was free admission night. And so we wanted to make sure that the community could just get out of their house and have something to do other than rip out drywall and look at, the negative. So it was positive, and it was a really wonderful evening.
Yes.
It was really good.
Well, like I said, Marcus, you are the definition of built Ford tough, my friend. How has football and that team of yours and the coach sitting next to you gotten you through this?
Like you said, it's been all positive, and without all the wins and all the excitement and us being together, it wouldn't happen without positivity.
Best of luck, guys, moving forward, as football has indeed been the respite down there for so many in those communities in Southeast Texas. Thanks again to Marcus Morris, our Class 4A Built Ford Tough Player of the Week.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Marcus Morris and that entire Hampshire community, certainly the definition of Built Ford Tough.
Yeah, and you talk about taking a punch, right? And that's obviously what's happened down there at Hampshire Finette, but they have kept on ticking, and that's the kind of kid who can inspire an entire community and be a leader out there, and I think you're already seeing that. And so congratulations to Marcus, and that whole community probably needs something to cheer about, and I think they can certainly get behind Marcus.
Well said there. So he takes home our 4A honors in Class 3A for Week 5. It was a sophomore quarterback that earned Player of the Week. In fact, Jackson Willis of Crane could be making a case step for Player of the Year accolades, as he has thrown for close to 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns this season, leading his ranked Golden Cranes to an unbeaten 5-0 start.
Yeah, Crane has cracked the rankings in Dave Campbell's Texas football, and you can see why, because Jackson Willis is out there slinging it for the Golden Cranes. A guy who completed more than 60% of his passes and was hitting big plays throughout this. He threw for 570 yards. He threw for 4 touchdowns, ran for another touchdown. He has been exceptionally accurate down the field. These are not dink and dunk plays. These are huge plays that he's coming up with. They had a huge win over Stanton. And look, they've got more work ahead of them. Big game this week against Ozona. But right now, with Jackson Willis calling the signals out there, you got to feel like Crane's going to be a problem for every team that they face. This is a kid who I think is really rolling right now, and I'm excited to see what he does. And by the way, just a sophomore. Going to get better. Exactly.
The lone sophomore of the group this week. So Jackson Willis making a case as to why we might be reading his names in years to come. So congrats to him as well, our Class 3 Built Ford Tough Player of the Week. Up next, it's the homecoming king of Hawley joining the show. He also might have Tepper a bit envious. Find out why on the other side when we welcome our 2A winner after this. The Built Ford Tough Player of the Week show is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas.
Hey fans, don't forget the Texas Ford dealers are looking for outstanding student athletes to be recognized as the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week. If you want to hear your favorite player's name read on television by Aaron Hardigan, nominate your gridiron hero at playeroftheweek.com.
Oh, my friend, how about this name as we welcome you back to the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week show. Our Class 2A winner has certainly been the gridiron hero that Holly has needed through its 5-0 start to the season, Tep. In fact, this is shaping up to be a pretty unforgettable senior year for running back Colton Marshall, who not only accounted for 7 touchdowns in the Bearcats' throttling last week, who not only was named Big Country Player of the Week, now back-to-back weeks, but on top of being crowned our Class 2A Built Ford Tough Player of the Week for Week 5, he was also recently crowned Homecoming King, and I'm going to go out on a limb and guess he is also going down in the yearbook as most likely to succeed, or at least best hair. As we welcome running back Colton Marshall to the show, along head coach Mitch Abels. First of all, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And secondly, most importantly, Colton, I got to know which crown is cooler, the Homecoming Kings or the Built Ford Tough Player of the Weeks?
I'm going to say the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week.
Smart man. Smart man.
You know, I'm interested in knowing how you found out about the award and what was your reaction?
I don't know. I'm kind of shocked right now that I actually won, but I don't know. I don't really. Yeah.
Listen, Trevor Lawrence has nothing on you. We'll get to that in a sec. For now, Coach, because Colton is playing that modest card, how about you tell us why he was so deserving of this honor this week?
Well, you know, he's a great player for us. It showed on Friday night, and plus he's a good leader and an even better person. So we're proud of him, and it's much deserved.
Colton, you know, obviously the numbers are pretty impressive. More than 40 yards a carry in your big win last week over Winthrop. What was it that allowed you to be so successful and have such a big game?
Oh, we had the O-line opening up holes and me just hitting it hard and just everyone doing their little jobs right.
Coach, did you envision you'd be sitting here 5-0 to start the season? And what's been the key behind that early success?
Well, you know, you always have that hopes, you know, but there's usually a stumbling block along the way, and it just happened to be the right time for us, and we've been playing pretty good, so hopefully we can keep it going.
You know, Colton, I want to ask you a little bit about the motivation coming into this year. You know, last year you guys probably bowed out a little bit earlier in the playoffs than you guys would have hoped. How has that been fuel for you guys? What's been the message in the locker room to keep you guys motivated and off to this great start?
We drive each other to be the best we can be and just take each team week by week and just see how the best we can do and just take it week by week.
You know, Coach, this honor is, of course, a representation of excellence on the field and off, so in the classroom and in the community as well. How would you best describe who Colton is away from the football field and what he does for your team?
Well, he's just a great leader, you know. He's a great person, great leader. He's not any problems in the classroom. And, you know, our football team votes on the captain, and he was the top vote getter. So I think that says a lot about him.
All right, and Colton, finally, we've been teasing the hair.
Here we go.
The hair. I was looking at some photos beforehand of the locks flowing in the wind coming out of the back of the helmet. I've got to know, at this point, is it just a good luck thing?
I feel like it's a good luck thing. Let's let it do its own thing and just flow in the wind.
Well, it looks fantastic, man. And these are hair goals for me, I've got to say.
Well, my question, again, Trevor Lawrence has nothing on you, but I want to know when Coach Abels is going to maybe grow it out. I mean, are we getting superstitious here, Coach? Is there any sort of wager we can put on?
I've tried to let it grow out just for this interview, so it didn't look like I didn't have any hair.
Just to hold a candle next to Colton Marshall, our Class 2A Built Ford Tough Player of the Week, and deservedly so. Guys, thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there he goes, the awesome lettuce and all. Colton Marshall, hats off to him. Huh? You're just jealous.
Hashtag hair goals, man. I'm telling you, hashtag hair goals. That's
He's going to
awesome.
struggle with the remainder of this show because of this. Now, while he took home our 2A honors in private school, how about the man of steel? That is Bryce Steele, the senior quarterback of Brazos Christian, who shone brightest under the lights, Tep, completing 24 of 26 of his passes, throwing for 411 and 7 touchdowns to 5 different receivers in a dominant homecoming win over Northside.
Yeah, when you get down there in the Bryan area, you've got some dudes who can sling it, and I will tell you that Bryson Steele has had an absolutely fantastic year. And the thing that stands out to me most impressively is the accuracy. I mean, this is a guy who had 2 incompletions on the year, on the season. Two in their game, 24 of 26,
That sounds like a
411
good
yards. And look, some of these guys were not open. He had to fit into some very tight windows, but you see him doing with his legs as well as you see his coach Ben Hoffmeyer, what he had to say. This guy is really special. I would say that what we've seen from Bryce Steele is something we're probably going to see for the rest of the season as well.
Well, again, as Coach mentions here, excelling off the field is just as much a strong suit for him as on field, and he represents what this Built for Tough Player of the Week award is, and that's excelling on the field, off, in the classroom, in your community as a person, and what a super kid we have in Bryce Steele, and of course Colton Marshall as well.
Well, and you're right, and the thing about that, you look at the GPA alone, right? If you have a GPA north of 4, things are going pretty well for you, and so you talk about leaders on and off the field, a guy who's inspiring his teammates on the field and then inspiring his classmates off the field. That's what Bryce Steele is doing down there at Brian Brazos Christian, a deserving winner of the private school Built for Tough Player.
Our hats off to him, as that'll do it for at least the awards portion of the Built for Tough Player of the Week show. When we return, as always, we put a bow on things, looking ahead to Week 6 and the best games and players we're keeping an eye on. That's after this. The Built for Tough Player of the Week show is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. A reminder to hit playeroftheweek.com to nominate your Gridiron hero as we roll out a list of them that we'll be keeping an eye on this week, Tubb.
Yeah, Colby Sampson, the running back from Alvarado, is a guy to keep an eye on. 10 touchdowns in the early season. By the way, Baron Morton from Eastland, that's a guy we've known about at Dave Campbell's Texas Football for a while. He's putting up crazy numbers again this year.
And games we'll be watching.
Let's go. There are 11, count them, 11 matchups of undefeated teams, and here are 4 of them. The one I've got my eye on, way out east. Number 1, Pleasant Grove, taking on number 2, Carthage. It's 4A Division 2 in Pleasant Grove, and it's 4A Division 1 in Carthage. And I think this is for the crown. This is for the crown of who is the best team in the small school ranks in East Texas. You know about that wing T attack. This game is going to be determined by the Carthage offensive line, led by Tykeus Crawford, going up against this awesome Pleasant Grove defensive front. Going to be a lot of fun.
Wow. 7 battles of unbeatens on Friday alone. We are your home all night long for Texas high school football coverage on Football Friday, kicking off at 8 o'clock, as that'll do it for us here in the Built for Tough Player of the Week show. Congrats again to Christian Pack, Brandon Adame, Marcus Morris, Jackson Willis, Colton Marshall, and Bryce Steele. We look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week, kiddos.